Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our podcast series. And I feel like giving it a name by now, but I think if we continue at this pace, I might just do that. But for now, we are going freestyle. And for those who are new, my name is Samra, and I'm a Dubai-based confidence coach. And today, joining me is my podcast buddy, Lyn, who is a life coach and an executive ADHD coach as well. And today we are diving into a sensitive but a crucial topic, and that's the topic of self-leadership in difficult times. So, when we hear about the word leadership, what comes to mind is the idea of leading others or managing others. But what I want to do is I want to tip the scales in our direction for a change and speak about leading ourselves or managing ourselves. I feel like there's a clear distinction between our professional and our personal lives that require two completely different personalities, and how we put out fires in our professional space is completely different from how we put out fires in our personal space. And I really want to dig deep into that today, as I myself have been experiencing some emotional turbulence and for a couple of
Mhm.
months actually, and I would love to hear some insights from Lyn and get her unique take on this. So we will be sharing some tips and strategies on how we can overcome, you know, situations that can get us emotionally off balanced. So I'm going to hand over the virtual mic to Lyn now and hear what she has to say. Hi, Lyn. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, Samra. Good, good, good. Happy to be back. I always enjoy our conversations, and you know that. They have quality, this quality that's like healing, like we come and share some things and talk about these sometimes abstract concepts, sometimes challenging to fully describe, but then by the end of it, it's always really, really rewarding and healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I love this topic, uh, first of all, I like to always start by saying the aspect of self-leadership, which was a reminder for me as well, is that it's really the foundation of all leadership, right? So when we think of leadership, we always imagine you're leading others. You're leading a team, you're leading a project, you're leading um, a business, you are leading change, which is also a really big one.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like we really do not think about ourselves when we hear the word leadership. If you
Mm,
think about it, the
yeah.
only time you'll relate to the word is if, as I said, you are in a position of leading the list I just mentioned.
Yeah.
But there's a concept of leading yourself, and that's actually the foundation of all types of leadership. It's the foundation of people leadership, where you lead others. Um, and on top of self leadership and people leadership is where you have the business leadership, where
Hmm.
you're leading, an opportunity or operations. And then on top of that is where you're leading, change or strategic leadership, which is what people who crave the top offices typically desire to get to, a place where they can influence what happens in the business. They want to have strategic leadership. And that's like the top level leadership, especially within a company. And if you ask me, actually, it's within any structured organization, including a government, right? A country. You want to have strategic leadership if that's, if you're going to effect change.
Hmm.
Um, but the but the but the foundation of it is self-leadership. But then what is self-leadership? Is the question. What is that anyway? Like, what does
Yeah.
that look like? And I tend to think that it's the ability to master yourself. It's
Hmm.
the ability to command yourself. And I feel like that's I don't know if the word is oxymoron, because I don't know if you can really ever fully attain self-mastery. I don't know. I feel like that's like that could be something that is for the preserve of Zen masters and monks and whatnot. I could be wrong. Um, but I feel like it's an essence of that. It's an essence of being able to say, I I make the decisions and I make the choices and I do it consciously, and then I follow through with them for myself.
Hmm.
And I feel like in the ability to do that lies, true leadership, and being able to then model it for others as you also grow in the ranks of the leadership levels. But I'm curious to hear what you think. What do
Hmm.
you think self-leadership is?
Okay. So, what I learned today, right now, from you is the hierarchy of leadership that I did not know about before. That it starts first with self, which I had no idea.
Mm,
And then it goes up to the level where we start to lead others. The strategic part is that,
yeah.
that's what you said. And then there is change leadership. That sounds quite interesting and enticing to me, because change feels like a bit, expansive word, and change means
Yeah.
creating a upheaval in a current system. And that is quite exciting, because not everyone is able to do that at a small level unless we learn how to create a massive change inside of us first, right? And I love how this
I
also
like that.
um, pours into the workspace, into the corporate world, as opposed to our personal lives as well. That people management starts with first self-management. So when we have our
Mm,
own personal story sorted out, how we tackle situations in our personal lives that cause us to, get imbalanced emotionally, then defines how we can actually handle other people. So it's like filling our cup in order to help others, because there are days when I feel like I have no energy to give to anyone,
mm,
because I don't
mhm,
even know how to give to myself at that point.
mhm, mhm.
And when I'm emotionally overwhelmed and there is someone expecting me to show up for them, I'm unable to do it. And I'm practically forcing myself to be nice, but I don't really mean it, right? It's because I want to
Mm,
show up authentically. I want to show up
yeah.
not in a tired way, but in a present, more loving, compassionate way, because I have learned to show up for myself first. So,
Mm, mm.
yes, it's such an important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, you've said some interesting things there. And one of them that jumped out at me is you can't manage others before you've managed yourself. And I feel like there's a statement that goes, you can't lead others before you lead yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and I like that. But I want to also be cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of people who are in leadership and leading, and they have not learned to lead themselves.
Hmm.
That's
Yes. Yes.
there's a statistic that I'm not yet very clear on. I mean, I'm not like I don't have the updated version, but I've heard that um, you'll find that 80% of leaders will not get any formal training or guidance in leadership
Okay.
for at least the first 10 years of their time in leadership roles. Like
Interesting.
it's up at the point, yeah. And I'm like, a whole decade? That's a decade before you decide to go into understanding leadership. So let's start. So that's the backdrop. So you have people who have not figured out how to lead themselves yet, have not mastered that. And then leadership in itself is something that they're winging. We're winging it, literally.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world. I'm just saying that I'm cognizant that that happens. And maybe what we can discuss is, so what's the value of self-leadership?
Hmm.
Because there are people who do it without having mastered that aspect of themselves.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to share some descriptions of self-leadership from other people. Um,
Yeah.
this one is by Bryant and Kazan from 2012. So self-leadership is having a developed sense of who you are, what you can do, and where you are going, coupled with the ability to influence your communication, emotions, and behavior on the way to getting there. And then this one is by Andrew Bryant himself. Self leadership is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, your feeling, and actions towards your objectives, intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and actions. And so, what is the importance of this for a leader, as opposed to just winging it, or training eventually? It's the idea that you basically get to increase a level of understanding and ownership of what you're doing. You inject purpose into it. That's what I believe. And what does that do for you? It brings ease. It brings flow. It brings the sense of, I know why I'm here and I know what I'm about. It brings grounding. It means you're not swayed to the left and the right by the economy, by the internal challenges of, let's just say, internal challenges of the organization, external challenges to the organization, or even your personal life. You're not swayed by those things. You're able to have some grounding. You're able to show up fully. And I feel like anyone who's venturing into leadership roles desires to be able to show up to it and really show out, I feel like by the time that's a desire and a goal you have, you're definitely aiming to, to be the best at it, to bring the best to it. So I personally think that you could continue in the direction of, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll get it, or you could begin starting this journey inward to then be able to lead upward and forward, really. So, yeah. Tell me what are your thoughts on those?
Wow. It sometimes, what I'm registering is such powerful information that I'm just trying to remember each one of the points so I don't forget. And the first point that comes
I
to
know,
mind
right?
is the is the idea of um thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's it's just not these three words. I
Intentionally
think it's when
influencing.
you, sorry?
Intentionally influencing those three.
Oh
So
yeah.
powerful.
As I was thinking about these three words, I was thinking about, okay, I'm managing my thoughts and then managing the feelings that come from the thoughts, and then the managing of the actions that comes from those feelings. It's like a ripple effect. And it's true. I think these three elements really shape who we are and how we lead ourselves. And it makes so much sense right now to me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
love the idea of how you have tied all three to a singular purpose, which is uh, having a clear purpose in mind and letting that purpose
Mm-hmm.
lead you. And that eventually leads other people. Purposeful leadership is extremely powerful, and I'm extremely passionate about it as
Yes.
well, because purpose is what gives us true meaning, and true meaning then brings out a
Mm-hmm.
different kind of energy and exudes a different kind of energy onto others, where they are aware that we're not just here to pursue something superficial. We are here to pursue something bigger than ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's quite exciting. I mean, just this aspect of leadership is so powerful that we don't even have to talk about the other aspects right now. Just purposeful leadership and tying it to a purpose and letting
Yeah.
that lead the way is amazing. And like you mentioned, upward and inward and then upward and then forward. Love that, Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Thanks. I should trademark it, and I just said it out of, the top of my head.
yes, I think the
I'm
right words
trademarking it,
come
guys.
out. Why not? I
Yeah.
mean, if that resonates with you,
Yeah,
why
why not?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so when we talk about purposeful leadership, do you have any tips in mind as to how we can inject that? Where do we start? What are the first few steps to take for those people who are new into this, into this arena? Do you have any tips for those people who are new into this new leadership role? And I'm talking about self-leadership
Mm.
because we are on this
Yes, yes.
topic. So if someone right now who's struggling to manage people, maybe this could be a good anchor for them. So what tips do you have on how we
Mm.
can start injecting?
Yeah. So when I think of, and I like that you went and tied it to self-leadership, because I was going to ask um, what that looks like. What does purposeful leadership on the level of self, what does that even look like?
Yeah.
Like, because yeah, we can think about it from the aspect of, I'm a purposeful leader because I have a vision and I have you know, a specific, purpose statement for where I'd like the company to go, right?
Mm.
But then we forget that we can do that for ourselves. What
Mm.
is your individual purpose statement for where you want to go? And so I think one of the tips I would recommend is you want to obviously start with yourself.
Hmm.
What do you care to live for? And maybe let me give a backdrop first before I go really into that. The backdrop of this is sometimes we look at the world, all of it, the organizations and companies and communities and countries, these bigger, these macro um, communities, so to speak, right? Um, and we think of them as needing or having meaning and having purpose.
Hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, those things don't inherently have purpose. All these things originate from people, from individuals. And then individuals can then draw on a collectiveness of a shared purpose and a shared vision. But it always starts with the one person. It always starts with when I say one person, I mean it's people who create all of this. It's sometimes when we look at it from a grand perspective, it's like, oh my gosh, the company has this, or this country has this 30-year plan, or this, and we forget that all of that originates from individuals, from people, from
Mm.
humans. So what I'm trying to say is that meaning and purpose doesn't come from the outside in. It doesn't come from those people are doing this, or this is the goal with that company, and then you say, oh, I resonate with it, and now I want. It's not necessarily like that. It's more of, it starts with you, and then from you go ahead and now begin to see what aligns outside, who else is drawn to it, how, that's when you now build the community, so to speak. So that's the backdrop, the fact that it starts with you. So don't necessarily look outside for something that can give you a good description of what purpose would look like, and you're like, yeah, I think I like the sound of that, I'm on board. No, it starts with you as an individual. And I think some of the tools you'd want to use is, I mean, I could talk about things like visualization and meditation. I could talk about that, but I feel like this is one of those things you don't do by yourself. It's you want to go into a deeper self-discovery process
Mm.
and
Hmm.
really unpack
Yeah.
where to know where you're going and who you're becoming,
Yeah.
right? And that is work that you don't necessarily do by yourself. And it helps to have, someone and someone along with resources that can help you to be able to actually figure that out and go inward and do that work. Create a nice safe container where you
Yeah.
get to do that work together.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like that's the biggest tip I'd give someone. It's that recognize that purpose will actually start with you and meaning will start with you. Don't go looking on the outside. You actually go inward. And to do the work of looking inward, find yourself the right support. And that could be in the form of a coach. Um, I suspect for some, it might also mean in the form of a therapist. But find a specific help professional
Yeah.
that can create that container for you to do that beautiful inner self-discovery work. Find a model that works for you in terms of finding it out, because there are different models, there are different tools that we can use to begin to figure out and tease out what our values are, what the belief system is, and along with that, how we align all of those with our purpose. So you could probably find those different ones, find the one that suits you, and then take it on. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, commit to self-discovery work. Commit to it. And if there's one thing I have to say about that work is, I don't know, sometimes it might sound fluffy to some, especially to the more logical, logic logic-based people or logic-aligned people, I suspect that it might look like, fluffy emotions. Not everyone wants that. That's not what it is actually. And even if a part of it is, we are as full beings, we have all those sides to us. Okay, there is the body, there is the mind, there is the emotions. That's a part of who we are. There's the gut, right? There's the
Yeah.
heart. It's important to be able to begin to connect to all of them to be a holistic person.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are people who are more, logic based. There's a specific point I wanted to give you and it's disappeared. I hope it comes back. It's a very valuable one. Anyway, I will get back to it when it comes.
Sure. Sure.
But
Well,
maybe you can let me know what you're thinking in terms of what tips you would give.
I think my tips are aligned with your tips initially. Why? Because I would probably also adopt the inside out approach. Um, this is so beautiful
Hmm.
and resonates so deeply with me is because everything starts from the inside and not conforming to the blueprint that has been handed to us that we blindly follow and think like, okay, I'm gonna try this. This looks good. But deep down, we're not even
Hmm.
sure if we really want to go with it. And this is what creates the inconsistency moving forward in our tracks where we somehow either go off track, lose
Mm-hmm.
focus, or we start to develop conflicts because we were not clear about our real actual vision and values in the first place. So understanding
Mm-hmm.
self at a deeper level is such an important inside job um, that will literally make anything easy. Understanding self itself is a tedious
Mm-hmm.
job. We might think it's easy, but we don't know ourselves, to be honest. We think we know ourselves, and
That's the
sometimes we do
thing.
claim that, hey, you don't know me like I know me. We say that all the time, but I'm here to say that no, we don't know ourselves at all. I think we only know like 10 or 20% of what we think we are or we know about ourselves. There
A
is so much more to
fraction.
discover, so much more to discover. So in that self-discovery process is when we
Yeah.
start to turn into a beautiful butterfly and then we start to spread our wings and take the world inside our wings the way we would like and how the world would actually resonate. People who want to be a part of our, our energy, our aura,
Yeah.
join. That's beautiful aligned leadership. And I loved this idea. I think this is probably the only first step that's needed to be taken for anyone who's willing to be a leader. And I firmly believe in the fact that even if we're not leading a team, we are still a leader. Everyone is a leader because every single day we are either
That's the
leading
thing.
ourselves,
Yeah.
leading our families, we are leading our siblings, or we are leading our friends. Somehow or the other, we are subconsciously leading. So I don't think it should stop us
Mm-hmm.
or limit
Mm-hmm.
us into saying
Mm-hmm.
that this is only for leaders. Does it make sense? And do you
Yeah.
agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
do agree. I do agree that we are leading things. We as you said, we're leading ourselves. And I think it's always important to also look at the aspects of what leadership looks like. Part of leadership is influence.
Hmm.
And so you're always influencing something somewhere,
Yeah.
or maybe not always, but then that's an element of leadership that you can bring on an individual level that you might not be cognizant of. You might not even be aware of it. And so, yeah, I do agree. I do agree that we are leaders on an individual level, even if we don't sometimes think so, if we don't have people or teams or whatever under us. The other level of leadership that we sometimes forget is the aspect of it, which is influence. And
Hmm.
so you are also in a position of some level of influence in your sphere, whatever sphere you exist in.
Yes.
Yes. And so that is a form of leadership. And sometimes you're not even cognizant of what you're giving off, right? Or
Mhm.
what you're influencing. So imagine if you could be intentional about your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, and therefore your influence on those around you, and what that can actually bring for you in your life and for others around you. And so that's another level of leadership
Wow.
that we have from an individual standpoint. That's another level of self-leadership. Um, and people leadership and environment leadership, because the influence aspect of it. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Wow. Wow. I love that part. I mean, becoming mindful of the influence we tend to have on people is a big one because sometimes we're not even aware of what we might be making others feel on
Yeah.
the subconscious level, and we just go on doing what we do. That unlocks the next level of awareness and emotional intelligence where, okay, I behaved a certain way, I acted in a certain way. How is this making the other person feel? This is next level. The influence of
Mm-hmm.
it. I think, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
how
Deep.
it makes them feel, and also what you're producing. What does that produce? Because you see, half the time we want things to work, we want relationships to work, we want what we do at our jobs to work, but then we're not realizing how we are impacting that through the influence that we have, that we are not even really aware of. Yeah, so it's like, what are you producing? What you'd like to see based on your influence and how you come off and how you are being. Yeah, yeah.
Producing and impacting. I see. So becoming mindful of the role we play in our own story and the impact that we can make with we can make with our own actions and how we can also change it based on the level of awareness that we create along the way. That is quite deep, and that calls for another podcast, to be honest. I would love to dig deep into this topic.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah. And I
so
want to wrap, I want to like sort of close it by saying you exactly what you said, and it all connects to self-leadership. It's like you're cognizant of the influence you have over others and the world you create around you. And that's a factor of your self-leadership. So yeah.
nice, nice. So how we make people feel is a direct reflection of how we are showing up for ourselves, in a way.
In a
So
way, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, a good way to start would be to become more reflective and more, aware of how we are impacting our surroundings, and this can tell a lot about us. Okay, maybe this is where
Mm-hmm.
I'm potentially not making a positive impact, and maybe it's time to step back and try to see how I can change it moving forward. Wow, I love that. Lyn, today's session was
Beautiful.
incredibly powerful, and sometimes
Oh,
I struggle to confine it within 40 minutes because these conversations are so deep
yeah.
and but I would love to continue this conversation over another podcast. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up, and we are going
Yep.
to wrap this up on a positive note, and the takeaway that leadership starts um uh, with self discovery, which is the inside out approach, understanding yourself at a deeper level,
Mm.
that then creates a new level of
Mhm.
awareness on how you can start showing up and the impact you make on people, becoming mindful of the kind of ripples you're creating from your
Yeah.
actions and your energy around you, and that can give you a good idea of how you might be showing up for yourself. So these are some powerful takeaways that I will be pondering over after we're done with the podcast
Yes.
because it's so deep. And I hope everyone has also taken some nuggets of gold from this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and thank you, Lyn.
Ah, love it as always.
Yes, um, leadership is a journey. I hope it's a never-ending journey, and we continue to learn more and more about ourselves every single day. And what matters is that you learn how to pick yourself up and keep moving forward with intention and clarity, no matter how life plans to shake us up or, throws lemons at us. So, just don't
Mm-hmm.
forget to subscribe and leave us a review if you enjoyed the episode, and tell us what's the next topic you would like to hear from us so we can create some cool content that resonates directly with that. Thank you, Lyn, for being on this podcast, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.
Thank you for having me, Samra.
Thanks, Lyn. Bye.
Bye.